If you read the front page of the bulletin, when Rodney's not here and it's my time to preach, I'm assigned to do that. And if you read on there, it talks about Miss Briley and how she was baptized this past week, and it talks about how as Christians we live for those moments. We live for the moments. Someone has put cough drops up here. They're falling around everywhere. As Christians, we live for those moments that remind us of our own coming to Jesus. Sometimes we forget our own conversion. So I want to thank Briley for this week, for giving her life to God, and also in doing so, reminding myself of that time when I came to Jesus myself. If you haven't met Miss Paula down here, this is my future mother-in-law. She came yesterday. Her and my daddy came. My daddy's not here today. But we moved some stuff into our new townhouse. So we're getting ready for the wedding day and all that. So we've now got a couch, thanks to the Urbans. It was funny, me and my daddy went out to their house to get the couch yesterday. And this is a nice couch. It's a really nice couch. Loaded it up and brought it back, and so proud of myself for getting this couch to our house. And it has cushions, where you sit at, but it's a wide couch. And I thought it's just a wide couch, nothing big to it. And she said, Morgan said, "Where's the back cushions at?" I said, "The what?" The back cushions. And, surely 3 men would forget the back cushions to the couch. So she said that she's going to bring those today to us. So we're moved in. So if you haven't met my future mother-in-law, please come down and do so when we're all done here. My second grade teacher, her name was Miss Sweeney, okay? Miss Sweeney is probably 45 years old now. She's about this tall, and she don't play, okay? And she was raised in the church. One of her daddies is an elder at Boonville. And she remembers being 7 or 8 years old and having the chest of drawers, and she would pull out all of her drawers and take all of her clothes out and set them in the floor behind her. She's 7 or 8 years old doing this. So I think of all the kids that are in my 4th and 5th grade class opening all their drawers and taking all of their clothes out. And then she closed the doors, and then she would pray. She would say, "God, please let my drawers be filled with candy." And she would open the doors, and of course they wouldn't be filled with candy. But she would, as a little kid, she would take all of her clothes out and pray for candy, and God never did it. So we're going to look at some passages right quick, and I want you to think of that story as we're reading these passages. We're going to start off in Matthew chapter 17, and we're just going to read one verse. We're going to read verse 20. Matthew chapter 17 and verse 20. And it reads, "He said to them, 'Because of your little faith, for truly I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you.'" Here Jesus says if you have the faith this big, then you can look at a mountain. I think of the mountains going to CYC and looking at those mountains and saying, "I don't want you there. I want you over here." Now let's go to Mark. Let's go to Mark chapter 11. Mark chapter 11. We're going to look at verse 23. And it's a very similar passage. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, and does not doubt it in his heart, but believes what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. So if you don't doubt what you believe, you don't doubt that you can move that mountain, then you'll be able to move it. Let's go to Luke. Luke chapter 17. Luke chapter 17, verses 5 through 6. And it says, the apostle said to the Lord, increase our faith. And the Lord said, if you had faith like a grain of mustard seed, you could say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it would obey you. So here, instead of a mountain, he uses a tree. I think of some trees that are out back here. And God says if you have the faith, you can uproot that tree and put it wherever you want to. In the last passage, we're going to go to James. James chapter 1. James chapter 1. And we're going to look at verses 5 through 8. James chapter 1, verses 5 through 8. And it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. We shouldn't doubt when we ask from God. So my question is, Miss Sweeney, going back to Miss Sweeney, if she would open the drawers and put her clothes on the floor, and she would ask God, and she would have faith, surely she believed that candy would be in those drawers. So, God says here, if we have faith, then we can do anything. So what was wrong with her faith? What was lacking in her faith? I think of the things that we ask for, or what do I ask for? My daddy told me, my grandmother is will be 90 years old, and my daddy was telling me about the other day in the grocery store. She went to pay for something, I don't remember how much it was, $20, and she gave them a dollar bill, okay? And she thought it was a $100 bill. Her mind has been going away, and Daddy had to, in the grocery store, tell her the difference between a $1 bill and a $100 bill. And I've seen this mountain coming. I've seen her slowly go downhill, and now the mountain is here. The mountain is here in our lives with my grandmother. And I have prayed for the mountain to go away and to not get here. So what's wrong with my faith? Or for some of us, it might be a spouse that is sick, and we pray for them to get better, and we want them to get better, and they don't. But God says here, if we ask, it will happen. So what's wrong? What's wrong with our faith? Maybe it's family issues, and we pray for, and nothing happens. So what is wrong with our faith? I'm here to tell you today that nothing is wrong with our faith, because God has the power. God has all the power to move any mountain that is in our lives. But maybe He wants the mountains right where they are, and that's something that's hard to realize. Sometimes the mountains are there, and He doesn't want them to move, whether we want them to or not. So my question is, why? Why would He want a mountain to stay here, a mountain in life? And we're going to go to our reading this morning. We go to 2 Corinthians chapter 12. 2 Corinthians chapter 12. and we're going to look at verses 7 through 10. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7 through 10. And this is Paul's thorn in the flesh. We don't know what that is, but evidently this thorn in the flesh was a mountain in Paul's life because he asked for it to go away. Let's read verses 7 through 10. And it says, "So to keep me from being conceited, because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given to me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. And therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness.'" Paul was given this thorn, or this mountain in his life, to keep him humble. And it's funny, Rodney has this series that he's going through about the tongue, and honestly, this whole series, I've been thinking, well, I think I have a pretty good grasp on my tongue. I don't curse, and I try my best not to gossip about people. I think I have a pretty good grasp. I don't know if you've ever been like that. Someone says their topic that they're preaching, and you're like, shh, it's not for me, that's for someone else. Well, yesterday, and this is small, but it shows me that I need to work on my tongue. Yesterday, Morgan and I were putting together our bed frame, and at first she said, "Trust me, I got it." So she had the instructions, and she was leading the way, and we were putting the bed together, and we pretty much had the frame together. And we had realized that we had put the slats on the outsides, facing outside of the, where they should be. So I realized we had to take all that apart and turn them in, and I said, "Oh man, you said for me to trust you, And I realized in that moment, that's something real small, but there was no need for me to make a little jab like that towards Morgan. I didn't catch it myself, just like she didn't. So I'm looking forward to this series with Rodney because it's definitely something that I need and I feel like we all need. So God gives us these mountains to humble us. I'm saying, okay. That might be why he gives us the mountains. So what do we do about it? What do we do when we have a mountain in our lives? And for that, we're going to go to Romans. We're going to Romans chapter 11. Romans chapter 11. In verse 33 and 36. Romans chapter 11, verses 33 through 36. And it says, "Oh, the depths of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God! How unsearchable are his judgments, and how inscrutable his ways. For who has known the mind of the Lord? Or who has been his counselor? Or who has given a gift to him that he might be repaid? For from him, and through him, and to him are all things. To him be glory forever." It's realizing that or for me sometimes, like with my grandmother, I ask God, take it away. God, take it away. God, take it away. God, take it away. And I eventually get to a point to where it's like, God, can you take it away? And the answer is yes. It says, verse 36, "For from him and through him and to him are all things." So what do we do about it? We have to realize that God is in control. And we have to realize that God can move a mountain in our life, or God can move the whole Smoky Mountains if he wanted to. So probably my last question of the day is, through these mountains and through realizing that God might put them there for a reason, what is the outcome of all these mountains in our lives? And we'll go to Hebrews chapter 6 for the answer to that. Hebrews chapter 6. Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 10. Verse 10. And it reads, "For God is not unjust, so as to overlook your work and the love that you have shown for his name in serving the saints as you still do." I'm reminded of an older gentleman from Boonville who his wife had cancer, and she had cancer for several months, and she passed away. I think of the fact that it changed him in the fact after she passed away, I saw him more times than not in the hospitals and in the nursing homes and in the places where other people were struggling with that. And I heard him say one time, "Well, I know what they're going through." He took that mountain of his wife passing away, and he let it mold him and change him into being someone who encouraged others way more than what he did before. I think of Proverbs 27 and how it says that iron sharpens iron. And the reason why this lesson came to me this week is I have a friend of mine who has fairly recently developed a form of depression, and they've been struggling with that, and I've been struggling with that. You know, me, if I feel bad, I can force myself to get up and do things, and by the end of the day I feel better, but they can't do that. When they get up and force themselves to do things, at the end of the day, they might even feel worse. It's not necessarily acting your way into a better way of feeling. So I've been struggling with that, how to help them. And there's an older gentleman that I know who's has some people in his life, some family members who have struggled with depression. And he sat down with me and he talked with me through it. And I think of the moments when he was going through that in his life. He didn't realize that he would be helping me with my struggles. All he saw was the fact that his family member was having depression and that it was putting a strain on him and his family. But he used that mountain and he used that hardship as an opportunity to learn and to grow, and through that he has helped me. So think of the mountains, and I don't know what your mountains could be. Your mountains are way different than mine. Your mountains might be children that have fallen away from the church. I think of a family member of mine who is in the process of falling away, and that's a huge mountain for me. Maybe it's, a sickness that has thrown you into some financial debt. Or maybe it's the fact that you've lost a loved one and you're having to live by yourself now. Maybe it's a parent that's going through what my mama's going through. And sometimes, or at least I get caught up in asking for the mountains to go away, that I forget that God might want them right where they are. So if you have mountains in your life this morning, and you haven't been taking the opportunity to react how you should and to maybe look at it as this is God, working on me. Maybe I need to work on myself. If you've been reacting wrong, or even if you have mountains that you need to be prayed for, I pray that you come as we stand and as we sing.